the life that never belonged to you. People think losing yourself happens suddenly, but most people don't disappear in a single moment. They fade. He remembered looking at his own reflection and feeling like he was meeting a stranger, a version of himself shaped by expectations, pressure, fear, and the quiet desire to be acceptable, not authentic, acceptable. Living a borrowed life happens slowly. One small compromise, one polite lie, one silent agreement, one abandoned dream, one forced smile, one swallowed truth. You don't notice the theft until the real you is too quiet to hear. Authenticity isn't about expression. It's about courage. The courage to disappoint others instead of betraying yourself. If you've ever felt like your life is something you perform, not something you live, that wasn't confusion. It was recognition. You've been carrying a version of yourself that doesn't belong to you, a version built to maintain safety, approval, and peace. But peace bought with self-erasure is not peace. It is obedience. And obedience is the birthplace of a borrowed life.
Number 10. You live a borrowed life when you prioritize acceptance over identity. He once realized that every choice he made was filtered through a silent question: will they approve of this? Not, is this me? Approval is the first currency of the borrowed life. Humans are wired to avoid rejection, not because rejection hurts, but because it threatens the primitive fear of exclusion. Authenticity demands self-loyalty. The borrowed life demands self-sacrifice. Human trigger. When acceptance becomes oxygen, authenticity becomes a threat. Emotion shift. Recognition to unease. You didn't choose their approval, you chose survival. Number 9. You borrow the lives of others when you fear the weight of your own choices. He once followed a path he didn't choose, a job, a relationship, a lifestyle, because choosing differently felt dangerous. Your own decisions carry responsibility, and responsibility carries blame. So you borrow decisions from parents, partners, friends, society. And the borrowed life feels safer because its failures aren't yours. This is responsibility displacement, the quiet surrender of identity to avoid accountability. Human trigger. If you didn't choose the path, you can't be blamed for where it leads. Emotion shift. Unease to doubt. You didn't follow their path, you fled from your own. Number 8. You live someone else's life when you confuse pleasing with belonging. He once believed that being agreeable made him lovable, so he said yes when he meant no. He adjusted when he should have resisted. He smiled when he should have withdrawn. The borrowed life is built through accommodation. You become easy to love by becoming easy to shape. This is adaptive compliance, confusing approval with belonging, and the longing with identity. Human trigger. People like the version of you they can control. Emotion shift. Doubt to suspicion. You weren't accepted, your obedience was. Number 7. You lose yourself when your boundaries are softer than others' expectations. He once realized he didn't know where he ended and others began. His boundaries were suggestions, not lines. Expectations from others felt like obligations. Requests felt like commands. And saying no felt like betrayal. This is boundary erosion, the slow disappearance of your sense of self under the weight of others' desires. Human trigger. Weak boundaries don't protect relationships. They protect illusions. Emotion shift. Suspicion to alarm. You didn't lose yourself. You handed yourself over. Number 6. You live a borrowed life when you perform the version of you that feels safest. He once noticed he had different identities for different people. The obedient one, the polite one, the capable one, the harmless one, the agreeable one. Every version was real, but none were whole. This is identity fragmentation,
performing whichever piece of yourself creates the least resistance. Authenticity requires risk. Performance requires rehearsal. Humans choose rehearsal. Human trigger. You perform safety when you don't trust your real voice to be enough. Emotion shift. Alarm to disbelief. You didn't hide the truth. You hid the parts of you you feared wouldn't be welcomed.
Number 5. You forget yourself when your life is built from outside opinions instead of inner truth. He once realized every major decision in his life, career, habits, goals, relationships, was built on external metrics. Will they approve? Will they be proud? Will they be impressed? This is externalized identity, allowing others to become authors of your life story. You lose yourself not because you disappear, but because you never appear. Human trigger. Living for approval requires abandoning authenticity. Emotion shift. Disbelief to tension. You weren't living wrongly, you were living outwardly. Number 4. You live borrowed dreams because your real ones feel too risky to attempt. He once had dreams he buried so deeply that even he forgot them. Not because they were impossible, but because they were his. Real dreams create real fear. Borrowed dreams create borrowed comfort. This is aspirational displacement, treating your purpose for something easier to fail at. Human trigger. You avoid your real dreams because failing them would feel like losing yourself. Emotion shift. Tension to chill. You didn't abandon your dreams, you protected them from the risk of trying.
Number 3. You live a borrowed life when you silence your emotional truth. He once swallowed so many truths that he mistook the silence for strength. But silence doesn't heal authenticity, it buries it. This is emotional suppression conformity, editing your feelings, preferences, discomfort, and pain to maintain harmony. Harmony bought with silence is not harmony, it's self-erasure. Human trigger. When you silence your truth, your identity whispers until it disappears. Emotion shift. Chill to collapse. You weren't being strong, you were being silent. Number 2. You live borrowed lives when your self-worth comes from stability, not authenticity. He once stayed in a life that felt wrong because it was stable. Stability is seductive. It convinces you that discomfort is safer than change. This is security-based self-betrayal. You stay where you don't belong because you fear the chaos of becoming yourself. Human trigger. Comfort is the cage that makes borrowed lives feel permanent. Emotion shift. Collapse to awareness. You didn't choose stability. You chose predictability over identity. Number 1. A borrowed life is the life you live when you fear holding the pen yourself. The darkest truth is that authenticity is terrifying. Authenticity requires ownership. Ownership requires responsibility. Responsibility requires courage. And courage requires loss. You may lose approval. You may lose connection. You may lose predictable comfort. But you gain something no borrowed life can ever offer. Yourself. Human trigger. Authenticity is not freedom, it is loss with meaning. Emotion shift. Awareness to quiet shock. You weren't afraid of being yourself. You were afraid of becoming someone you could no longer hide from. Your life is waiting to meet you. If someone came to mind while reading this, someone you perform for, someone you shrink for, someone you bend for, that wasn't coincidence. It was clarity. You have spent years carrying identities that were never yours. But awareness is the first rebellion. You cannot reclaim the life you were meant to live without recognizing the one you've been living instead.
A borrowed life is not a failure. It is a signal that you are ready to become honest with yourself. If someone you know is trapped inside a life that feels rehearsed instead of lived, share this with them, not to expose their mask, but to help them remember their face beneath it.